Are you ready, kids?
No, I'm not. Fuck you, Panty the Pirate!
That's as close to a clever intro as you're going to get. So today we're going to be doing a little special episode. We're going to be going back to reading lost episode Creepypastas. But today we're just going to be reading Spongebob Creepypastas. I got this as a request from a commenter and, always nice to get suggestions. So we're going to start off with the specific creepypasta this person suggested, which is Spongebob the Void. So let's just get into it. I don't have anything interesting to say. So what you're about to read is a creepypasta from a year ago. The events could be made into a video if someone had the motivation to. With all due respect, credit the original author of this page, Alex Codex, author of page. Okay. Thank you, Alex Codex. Hopefully this is probably gonna be good. I like the SpongeBob story. I've always been a fan of this show. Hello, I'm William. I used to work at Nick. I left the company because I was a Nintendo fan. I already like this. You can't work at a Nickelodeon if you're a fan of Nintendo? Okay, while I was working on a Nintendo Switch, I found a cassette tape in the corner. I didn't why it was there or how it got there. Turned out it was a SpongeBob DVD, even though it was a cassette tape. It was blue on the front and black in the back of the tape. The top, okay, now it's a tape again. The top, bottom, and sides and the gradient are the gradient of blue and black. I showed the tape to my boss. He examined it. I was confused why he was examining it. It didn't make sense. After the I'm guessing it's inspection, he went out and announced the news to my coworkers. He said, "One of our employees found a SpongeBob tape. Please watch the tape." I was confused why everyone needed to watch the tape. But if it's important, I'll do anything. I sat on the chairs with my coworkers and watched the episode and saw the lost episode. What we saw confused the fuck out of us. Alright, I already love this story. Just for clarification, they're at like a factory where they make Nintendo Switches. And they took a break out of their day to watch a SpongeBob episode. Fantastic. The episode started without a title card, as it started with Squidward playing his clarinet. Surprisingly, he was a master at doing that. Usually when he plays it horribly. As he was playing his clarinet, SpongeBob and Patrick decided to play outside his house. Squidward got mad and said, "SpongeBob, would you be quiet?" After Squidward saying the quote, the screen started to glitch. And the screen shut off like a TV. However, that was a part of the episode. After this, it cut to SpongeBob floating in a black, staticky abyss. SpongeBob opened his eyes and was looking everywhere. He couldn't move. Then a loud noise began to play. It sounded like static and laughter. Me and my coworkers covered my ears. We could still hear it. And then the noise stopped. It showed SpongeBob again, but this time he was glitching. His body was switching between sketches, old, modern, and 2005s. And his eyes were gone. But not in a gory way. Like if someone went into Ibis Paint. I think I've heard of that before. That's just like a painting software, right? Very specific. And used the lasso tool on his, because I'm pretty sure most paint studios have like a selection tool like that. And took them. He was also laughing and spazzing out. And the background started to glitch, showing eyes, fire, and Squidward's shirt. I don't know why that's so funny to me. And then the episode cut to Bikini Bottom. I have a little bit of soup here. I tried making matzo ball soup and I messed up. I have this just absolutely massive matzo ball. It's like the size of a baseball. It's kind of like I did not expect it to grow. Like it doubled in size. I guess it's fine, but it's kind of weird. The Bikini Bottom was completely in ruin. With 3 spears, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. There's an ad and it's just Mr. Beast's face just looking at me. It's a little distracting. You can't see it, but it's a little, okay, now it moved out of the way. With these 3 spears stabbing around it like a ritualistic symbol. They all turned in multiple ways and made Bikini Bottom fall into the seafloor along with the spears. The Bikini Bottom sunk down into Mr. Beast is back, I'm sorry, into the depths and fell into a void that swallowed everything around it. It was the same void SpongeBob was in. Then it cut to Sandy Cheeks reading a book. She then went outside and saw that the Bikini Bottom was gone. Sandy Cheeks went near the hole and realized what happened. She fell onto her knees and cried and cried. Then the screen faded with the black screen with the text. And I'm guessing it's like a hex code or something, whatever. Yeah, hexadecimal code. Oh, they train. I was going to say, I'm going to put this in it. Like, I need to learn to read ahead before I say things. So it's a hexadecimal code. We translated it and found out it said nothing will last forever. After the episode, my coworkers and myself were confused. Is this a fake episode? If so, what was the point? Honestly, I wasn't traumatized. Who would be traumatized by a possibly fan-made video? Anyways, thank you for reading this story. If you find this tape, do send it back to us. We'll analyze it for better details at Nintendo. Hey, thanks for reading this creepypasta. I was in the early years, not much good deal, but it's quality enough. Yeah, it was actually, I'm going to be honest, it's pretty good as far as like these type of creepypastas. One of the main qualities I kind of like, look for in these is a comprehensive story where you can kind of understand what's going on, because like so a lot of these stories just throw out like as much like spooky stuff as possible without any sort of like theme or anything at all. But this one was like pretty much, I'm guessing it's like the void is supposed to represent like the end of a show. Actually, I think this is a little bit of a tangent, but this just reminded me of something. So there's like this theater around like in the state where I live, and they did like I think they're like one time only like plays, and this is around Halloween. And there was this one, I think I have the card, like the play card for it still. It was called like Dream Country or something like that. And it was about like a kids show, like this kids show that's been going on for a while. And they have like all these the characters are puppets. And they all have like this there's like this human person who's like the main character of the show. And pretty much he hasn't shown up for a long time. And they're just all waiting every single day, waiting for him to come back. Because, he always comes. He's like the center of the show. But somebody else comes, a different human, and he says the show is about to be canceled. And the main character, the guy, died years ago. And for some reason, they're still existing within the story world. And, they don't really believe him. And I think they end up tying him up, and then everything falls apart and reality ends as they end up canceling. Because the human was trying to bring them out. He was trying to save them. But they didn't believe anything he was saying because, they're so convinced that their reality is real. Anyways, but I think that's kind of like a similar story to what's going on here, in that, it's like a manifestation of the show ending. It's nothing lasts forever. The void swallows everything into nothingness. Like, what happens to the characters of a show? Like, assuming that, I don't know, they exist somewhere. What happens when the show stops? That's kind of a big assumption, but you know what I mean? Like assuming that, like, if you come up with an idea, it exists somewhere in like a different universe or something. What happens if the show ends? Does that reality end if people stop thinking about it? That's just my interpretation. I actually enjoyed that. It was a little silly, with the I had to work at Nintendo because I like Nintendo now, but I was like, yeah, it was pretty good. I actually enjoyed that. Yeah, thanks, Alex Codex. Let's move on to the next one. So without further ado, let's move on to the next creepypasta. This is Rock Motto, and it is the best article to ever exist. It's kind of a bold claim. It says, this article is one of the bestest and most creative articles on the whole wiki ever. And not so many articles get to this stage. Please do not edit it unless you actually think it could be better than it was. All right, so that's a pretty big claim, pretty bold statement that is the best article to ever exist. Because that statement doesn't just mean it's the best article on the wiki. That means it's the best article to exist in any media ever created. This is the pinnacle of human writing right here. So let's see how amazing it is. Let's just jump right into it. As a little kid, I was a huge fan of SpongeBob. I had all the episodes on VHS, all the merchandise my mom could afford. I even had a SpongeBob room. The walls painted yellow with green holes. But after the SpongeBob movie, the episodes they put out were complete crap. I could no longer watch the show and I tired of it. One night, I happened to wake up around 1 a.m. and decided to watch TV. I scrolled through the guide and it said an episode of SpongeBob was coming on Nick at Night. I found this strange as SpongeBob usually doesn't air this late. I thought I would watch it for old time's sake. I settled in to watch the episode, and the time card showed Rock Motto. I didn't remember this one. It must be a new episode, but I swear, for one split second of the episode, I saw a face. The episode began with a picture of SpongeBob and Patrick acting silly in a group photo, which was very uncharacteristic of SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward. It's so uncharacteristic of Squidward that my mind automatically removed him from the situation. Like, there's no way Squidward would be doing this. As I remember, but something was very odd about the photo. Where the trio's eyes should have been, there were only black holes. I found this very off, but I remembered that the newest SpongeBob episodes were like this, so I kept watching. The screen became staticky, but through that static, it showed Mr. Krabs skipping rope with his own eyes. It then cut to black for a second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How to... Notice the knife? Notice the knife? That's fantastic. Something was Mr. Krabs was jumping rope with his own eyes. Then it cut to black for a second, then showed SpongeBob staring off into a black sky with a giant hyper-realistic Squidward looking back at him. It then showed a still picture of Patrick carrying a hammer with a 2x4 nailed into his head. The hairs on his stomach read 666. It's this one. Yeah, okay. He was talking in a very distorted voice, so much I could barely understand a word that he was saying, though I swear it was his Spongebob quote from Lost Identity. The screen went staticky again and showed SpongeBob with black dots for eyes. He appeared to be carrying a knife and missing a tooth. Notice the knife? Do you notice it? Do you see it? It's right there. Oh my gosh, SpongeBob isn't supposed to have a knife. That's crazy. He's also supposed to have 2 teeth. It's not right here, guys. This next part was the worst. It was a picture of Plankton, though very light static. He had this horrifically disturbing face that was so detailed and scary it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand straight up. The screen then zoomed out of SpongeBob's TV. Ha! That was scary, huh, Gary? SpongeBob said to Gary, his pet snail. I felt relieved that it was all just a program that SpongeBob was watching. Then, there was a knock on the door of SpongeBob's pineapple home. Come in, the yellow SpongeBob chimed. Then, Patrick appeared, his pupils missing. SpongeBob, I have to touch you, Patrick screamed, then disappeared. SpongeBob looked out his door, frightened. I have to touch you, SpongeBob. Hey, a box! He walked over to the box. Hey, who's there? Patrick's laughing can be heard in the background. It then showed Patrick advancing towards SpongeBob. The screen then cut to black. Though SpongeBob's horrified screams can still be heard. His eyes open and he sees Patrick with black holes for eyes holding a knife. I'm guessing that's this one right here. Patrick holding a knife. Notice the knife. It then said alternate scene, but that was just SpongeBob and Patrick jumping into the box. The animation then got jumpy and it showed a picture of the Crusty Crab behind a completely black sky. The Crusty Crab, SpongeBob's voice proclaimed. SpongeBob's finger puppet appeared on top and the camera went inside the Crusty Crab. The camera was as if it was a 1930s cartoon. The screen was gray, but SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs all had enlarged features, while the extremely disturbing Plankton was in the background. Ah, that's better. But then SpongeBob's Glove World flashlight went out. Patrick's laughing can be heard in the background, and for a second, a disturbing Patrick with very realistic features can be seen. Hey, if I close my eyes, it doesn't seem too dark. SpongeBob's famous line is followed by him being eaten alive by spiders. SpongeBob then proceeds to run after he was eaten alive. Apparently he can still do that. The next few scenes were very staticky. An extremely disturbing SpongeBob appeared through the static, with real features just as disturbing as Plankton and Patrick's. Then it showed a picture of SpongeBob with black eyes for a second, then Squidward choking on a fork, while it zoomed in on a picture of the Holocaust. What? Just a picture of the... I don't know what to say to that. It like knocked the wind out of me. I was not expecting the Holocaust in a SpongeBob creepypasta. Okay, let's keep going. Let's try to finish this. Then a still of Squidward hanging Patrick with black holes for eyes. See, right, it's right here. Notice the lack of a knife here. There's no knife. There's a rope though. Also pretty dangerous. It then showed an episode of Roseanne, but I was so scared by that time that I could barely even blink. Every time I did, it showed that image of Plankton. It still haunts my memory to this day, and so does the rest of the episode. I tried to tell people, but they didn't believe me. I don't sleep that much since I watched the episode. Every time I do, I wake up with cuts on my arms and a vivid memory of the episode. Someone please help me. See, that's it. So many photoshopped images, it's actually kind of funny. This was awarded the best articles on this wiki. This is a YouTube poop. This is actually a YouTube poop. I would not be surprised if this was like a transcription of a... Yeah, wait, right here. Spongebob goes into a horrifying dimension. It's literally just a transcription of a YouTube poop. Of a joke video. Yeah, like, as a joke, it sounds like it'd be like funny, where it's like, ooh, spooky, because you know, like there's like a kind of like a subgenre of some of these YouTube poops, but like this, the best article to ever exist. I don't know if I feel like the I wouldn't say the previous one's the best article to ever exist, but I feel like the other one, the previous one, The Void, was definitely better than this. But this was just like, this is what I was talking about when I was saying like stories that just throw things out there, because this is literally just, and then Patrick's has a knife, and then Patrick's getting hanged, and then Mr. Krabs is doing jump rope with his eyes, and I mean, of course it doesn't make sense because it's a YouTube poop. It's supposed to be absurd and like dumb, but like presented in the context of it's actually supposed to be scary is like, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, you know? I guess we'll move on to that. Also, why is it called Rock Motto? That's never answered. Is that just what the video is called? Okay, so I did go back and I watched the YouTube poop, and it is literally just a transcription of the events in a joke video. I think there was like, we've read stories like that before. I think it was like was it Luigi personality quiz? It's one of those stories where they find a video that's supposed to be funny but kind of creepy, and they just write it all down. I don't know why it's so common, but it's really weird seeing that as the best article ever. Anyways, this is Faceless. This is a 10 out of 10. Faceless is one of the bestest articles in existence. So it's not the bestest. It's just one of them. It's up there. But it's not quite as good as Rock Motto. Let's give a congratulations for the author because of making this favorable article in the wiki. These articles also need readers for this. We also need improvements to higher up the reputation to an extent of 50 plus out of 10. Good luck getting there. I believe in you. Faceless is a word I'll never forget after watching that disturbing tape. It all started in 2018. As I was checking my mailbox, I noticed a VHS tape with the words Faceless. It was written multiple times. Scribbled on the tape in red Sharpie. I picked it up and popped it into my VCR just to see what this was all about. There is no intro nor title card as it just skips the episode. Squidward woke up in the middle of the night and went outside to go to work, but he didn't see SpongeBob or Patrick, which was strange. Suddenly, Squidward hears muffled screaming, sounding like SpongeBob and Patrick. Squidward started panicking and checking SpongeBob's house. The door was locked, so he checked Patrick's rock. Nobody to be seen. I'm guessing SpongeBob and Patrick are going to be faceless. Just a hunch. Just going off of a few like subtle hints. Then SpongeBob and Patrick started walking up to him, and the muffled screaming became louder. Squidward saw them. They were faceless! No mouth, no eyes, no nose, nothing, just their blank, smooth heads. Squidward screamed to the top of his lungs, but nobody could hear him. He ran to the Crusty Crab to see if Mr. Krabs was okay, but he was faceless too. Faceless fish were sitting at tables trying to eat a patty, but to no avail. Squidward heard even more muffled screaming as a crowd of people started walking slowly into the Krusty Krab. Squidward ran to Jellyfish Fields, but eventually passed out when he got there. Squidward woke up in a dark room with a splatter of blood on the walls. He was laying on a surgical table with various painful medical tools right next to him. Squidward was sweating as a dark figure approached him and said in a calm voice, "This won't hurt that much." It cut to a black screen with Squidward screaming in agony as you could hear blood splattering and him being torn apart until the screen stopped. Oh, the screaming stopped. The screen didn't stop. Oh, I guess it's almost over. It went back to Squidward with him waking up in Jellyfish Fields and trying to scream, but he had no face. Then the tape ended. I wish I could just magically erase this from my memory, but no, I have to live with this memory like a permanent scar. If you happen to see any VHS tape you didn't order in your mailbox, never play it. Helpful tip there. Little pro gamer tip. The premise is kind of creepy. Like everyone's faceless surgery. Yeah, it's alright. It was alright. It's pretty good. OMG, real 3 a.m. It's just photoshopped image. I see the structure. Well, kiddos will think this is real and they will not sleep never. But I'm not a kid. I'm an old kid. I'm 7 years old. Aren't you a little young to have a fandom account? No. What else is there? I don't see anything. What else is SpongeBob? Okay, what about this one? SpongeBob Live. Have I read this one before? Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Okay, I don't think I've read this before. But I'm a little confused here. Because you'll notice some rainbow words here that are kind of contradictory to something we've heard before. SpongeBob Lies is the best article to ever exist. I thought Rock Motto was the best article to ever exist. How can you have two? You can't have two on the throne at the same time. There's got to be one that's the best. You can't have two bests. Now, I'm gonna look at the bottom to see if there's like a if this is like a YouTube poop. Wait, hold on. Let me check this. Yeah, it looks like it's looks like it's a transcription of a video again. I'll still read it, but article is the bestest, blah blah blah. I was once a real big fan of Nickelodeon. I mean, specifically the show SpongeBob SquarePants. And you're not a real Nickelodeon fan, but you get the point. So we all know Stephen Hilberg died in 2018. Yeah, I was in tears. So in honor of him, I decided to buy every SpongeBob DVD that was available. I'm talking every single DVD. So a couple of days later, I was out for a jog to exercise, and I found this random homeless guy. He was selling a bunch of SpongeBob DVDs. that the Spongebob team were using to test their skills. I told him, how much are they? And where'd you get them? He said all of them costed $1, and he got it after he supposedly quit his job as a Nickelodeon worker. He probably quit to work at Nintendo. I had never seen this man before, but then he said quit before the SpongeBob team ever started producing the episodes. Still, that sounded pretty fishy. But I gave him the buck... What the fuck? Okay, let's pretend that didn't happen. So yeah, I went back to my house and I put in the DVD. But the first thing I saw was that old Nickelodeon fish floating around. That's what we saw in the video. So the fish's eyes are bloodshot, and the fish itself was red. This guy might be trying to scare me, I thought to myself. Either way, I didn't really care about it. I mean, anyone could paint a fish red with Photoshop. The menu screen was just a stretched out PNG of a smiling SpongeBob with the title card testsponge8.mp4. I clicked on it. The first thing I saw was the intro. It was fine, but the title card was kind of weird. The background was gray. The title of the episode was called Lies, and there was a pentagram with it. During the title card, there was this satanic worshiper music, or something was playing in the background. That whole title card just made me think of that spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down your spine video. After that, the episode began. SpongeBob was eating some kelpo. Well, Gary, I am heading... Oh, sorry, this is SpongeBob's voice. Well, Gary, I am heading to work. See you later, Gare Bear. After SpongeBob left the house and off to work, he saw a fish. No, like an actual fish. I think a dead one. Just right there. So then SpongeBob got some pills out of his pocket and ate them. I started to notice that visual static. Out of nowhere, blood starts coming out of his mouth, and he begins to cough and gasp for air. I got kind of nervous at this point, because they didn't allow blood in cartoons. And SpongeBob could have gotten discontinued, so SpongeBob screamed and ran as fast as he could to the Crusty Crab. When he walked in, there was a gigantic line of people who were waiting to get Krabby Patties. Then Mr. Krabs yelled out, SpongeBob! The only thing off was that it wasn't the original voice actor. It sounded more like he got replaced with another one. Okay, now I actually got scared, like on a serious note. SpongeBob, cook those patties, the customers are in a frenzy! SpongeBob ran into the kitchen as fast as he could. He makes Krabby Patties, at first. Mr. Krabs walks back in and SpongeBob cartoonishly swats him back and forth, telling him he cannot handle him. And well, this is where the episode just goes downhill. It's not him swatting Mr. Krabs, it's him shaking Mr. Krabs. Do you know what swatting means? Swatting means like slapping. He's not slapping him. He's shaking him. As the loop of SpongeBob flipping patties continued, a metal door started shaking. A little bit later, there was some screams. I started to shake. I heard these sounds before. Then SpongeBob just stopped cooking altogether and just stared into nothingness. The screams continued. The room got darker and the screams started to get louder and more painful. The kitchen set on fire. I had to cover my ears. Then it finally ended. SpongeBob stared at the viewer. He smiled, and that was when I noticed static filling up the screen. People think I'm a good person. Lies, lies, lies! SpongeBob yells. I noticed the static intensify. I think I can show Mr. Krabs what I think of. It cut back to him making Krabby Patties, except this time he wasn't smiling. He threw a Krabby Patty at Squidward, then he went back to grilling the patties for a moment, and then called Mr. Krabs for help. When Krabs comes to SpongeBob, he was confused. SpongeBob didn't need help with anything. And that's when the episode turned gory. SpongeBob grabbed Mr. Krabs' head and used his bare hands to dislocate Mr. Krabs' bones, skin him alive, and then dismember him. First, he twisted all of Mr. Krabs' arms and legs until they came off. Then he straight up ripped his shell in half. SpongeBob then started peeling Krabs' skin off very slowly. And after a while, Mr. Krabs began gurgling in a low pitch. Oh, you're still alive. More fun for me then. SpongeBob violently twisted around. Then he grabbed a pan and shoved it down his throat. He also bashed in Mr. Krabs' face until his face was split in half. Maniac SpongeBob ripped off the windpipe in Mr. Krabs' throat and started reaching through the hole. He reached all the way through the neck and grabbed something. That was his spine. and as soon as he grabbed it, the episode froze for a moment. 3 black rectangles covered Mr. Crab's mutilated eyes and mouth. Then after a long time, the episode resumed. The black rectangles faded, and SpongeBob started digging inside Mr. Crab's body to find his heart. He ended up peeling it apart and eating it. After that, he split Mr. Crab's gums and teeth into halves. Just for fun, I guess? He also ate Mr. Crab's eyeballs and tore off the nerve endings connected to the eyeballs to use them as a toothpick. Yeah, what is wrong with him? How do you use nerves as a toothpick? They're like noodles. Like little, how do you pick your teeth with little like noodly things? SpongeBob started violently jumping on his body while laughing maniacally. And then after that, SpongeBob peeled off the rest of his flesh so he could see the remains of his internal organs. He crushed them until all that the organs were was a pool of mixed liquids and bits inside. He finally stopped. SpongeBob started laughing and soaked in all the blood that was splattered onto him. Then he realized he could kill another person, Squidward. He went to Squidward reading a newspaper. Squidward told him to bug off since he knew all the customers were dead already. But SpongeBob said, "Squidward, I know I'm annoying, but this will be the last time." Before Squidward could react, SpongeBob grabbed his chest and ripped it open. He kicked his insides, splattering it across the room. His head was blown to bits and his brain was ejected through his skull. Cleanly. SpongeBob slowly plucked Squidward's eyeballs out, ate them, ripped off his lips, and used the nerves on Squidward's eyes as a toothpick, as with Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob also stepped over his private parts and bashed his head inside his torso. After he was done, SpongeBob walked up to the last customer in the restaurant. He was frozen in fear. He picked up both Krabs and Squidward's remains and showed it to that customer. He threw it at the customer, and after that he just bashed their head into a pulp. As I kept watching, SpongeBob entered the gym. He saw Larry and gave him a protein milkshake. "Thanks." Larry drank it. Blood started coming out from his eyes, ears, nose, mouth, everywhere. He tried to perform the Heimlich maneuver, but he just coughed up more blood, and he was unable to get out of his system. "SpongeBob, why would you?" His pale body fell to the floor before he could even finish his sentence. He started seizing. "That wasn't that fun putting in a bunch of liquid mercury in that cup. Well, at least I'm not a monster who steals everybody's girlfriend," SpongeBob mumbled. Unsatisfied, he went to Sandy's tree dome. Sandy was working on a brand new invention that looked like a wood chipper. SpongeBob, bored, threw a rock in the dome and walked away. The dome cracked a little until it broke, letting water in. Fortunately, Sandy escaped with another one of her inventions. SpongeBob didn't care either way. He only cared about one more target. "Only one more kill will satisfy me." I'm trying to mentally imagine what the video is going to be like. Because I imagine some of the audio is probably done by like 15 AI or something. Or it's either that or really good sentence mixing. That's what So I'm going to watch this after I'm done reading this. I'm going to tell you how much it's if it's a direct transcription or if some stuff was added to it. It cut to SpongeBob knocking on Patrick's house with a lighter. Patrick was scared because his fingers were gone, even though he had never had any fingers in the first place. Eventually, SpongeBob got impatient and burned part of the rock down. SpongeBob opened his mouth and started burning Patrick's vocal cords with his torch. Oh, okay. Patrick started gurgling and soon a whistle came in, accompanied with the screen fading to darkness. Patrick attempted to call for help, but no one was even passing by his house. Then it cut to Patrick covered in the remains of his rock, still alive, covered in blood with his skull and some of his other bones exposed. He was unconscious, though, but the flames in Patrick's insides were extinguished. His face had also been burned from the outside. Every time the flames would stop, SpongeBob would just light his face on fire again. The burnt flesh eventually stuck onto Patrick's skull like a glaze on some clay. His eyes were still there, though, and he could still see. His eyelids were burnt away so he couldn't blink. His gums and lips were gone. SpongeBob took a camera and recorded a video. He slowly awakened and could tell he couldn't remember anything. After he opened his eyes, he started screaming like a wild animal, even though his vocal cords were almost gone. I don't mean like a wild animal, that in a funny way. It sounded like the voice actor himself was being burned alive. He started relying on his instinct. He fell unconscious again, and SpongeBob started smashing his face against the camera. I know it is a cartoon, but that is just brutal. And it even made me mad. Patrick woke up one more time and cried very quietly, with his strength he had left, and SpongeBob looked at him. Everyone will love this video. I'm sorry. I'm really looking forward to watching the video after reading all this. I really am. A message came up that said, okay, I'm not good at kanji, but I'm assuming based on this, it says like, Anata ga tsugi no da. I'm pretty sure. I'm not really that good at kanji. I think that's like tsugi, which is like you're next. I don't know what it means, so I used Google Translate on my phone. It was Japanese that meant, you are next. The next scene cut to SpongeBob's house. It showed the inside of the house, which was all dirty and trashed. There was also a pentagram on the wall. The same pentagram on the title card. The next room had Gary in it, dead, with his shell broken and eyes slit. The next room showed a bunch of dead bodies of the fish kids. SpongeBob was lying in bed with a knife in one hand and a face covered in blood. He said, "Oh, wait! This is a hallucinogen! I bought the hallucinogen on accident instead of the pill. I need it from the drugstore. No wonder why." Yeah, he took pills at the start, didn't he? SpongeBob laughed that iconic chuckle before slowly realizing that he'd done it, realizing that he had killed, no, slaughtered everyone he loved. He ended up hanging himself in a busy bikini-bottom street. As he decomposed, a vomit-like liquid slowly pumped out of Squidward's corpse. No one dared touch him. In the end, there was a time-lapse of SpongeBob decomposing. His eyes remained open as the eyelids decayed away. His eyes becoming bloodshot after the veins spilled open, after the cells were dead. Staring there, his yellow turned into a brownish red from the flesh and blood escaping. Eventually, he was completely gone. Remember to be careful! Then, it showed SpongeBob, but with a creepy, bloody smile. He said, "Lies, lies, lies!" Then the episode abruptly ended. I mean, I've seen some gore videos over the years, but this was pretty horrifying. It made me gag seeing the time-lapse sequence at the end with SpongeBob slowly decomposing away. Like, seriously, this is one of the most terrifying videos I have ever seen. Worse than many others. Please, please, do not go searching for this SpongeBob DVD. It will haunt you until the end of your life. In my case, I ended up throwing it in the trash.
People think I am a good person. Lies, lies, lies.
Okay, so I watched most of the video, and it's not anywhere near as gory as the story is. Like, a lot of that stuff is added on. Like, for example, for Mr. Krabs, it just kind of cuts to a picture of, I think they have the picture on the wiki actually. Like, for Mr. Krabs, it doesn't show him getting like dismembered. It just kind of cuts to this picture. There's no like him peeling off his skin or anything like that. It just cuts to this. And for Squidward, it just kind of like, he's like, instead of the dialogue is different. He says, "You're not going to face the wrath of this sponge." But yeah, it's all like 15 AI. So it's not like sentence mixing. It's like a text to speech. I mean, the gore in the story is actually like, I'd say it's, I wouldn't say, I don't know, maybe disturbing. It's pretty disturbing. I don't know. Disturbing might not feel the right word, but I'd say it's close enough. It's pretty detailed. It's pretty like awful stuff. And I gotta give them credit for coming up with that themselves. I think it's a lot scarier than the video actually is. Because the video is kind of like goofy, and this one's actually a lot more violent. I mean, violence doesn't necessarily equal horror. I feel like some of the details, though, were like, I don't know, pretty well done, pretty like creative. Especially with the mainly with the like Patrick, getting burned to a point where like his skin's just kind of like like a glaze. I think it was all right. It's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if I feel like with the other one that I think some of these people are kind of like saying the same thing. I don't like it's okay for a lost episode creepypasta. Like it's got some like creative gore moments, but it's kind of weird to say that these stories are like the best thing ever made. Like especially, given the context that a lot of them are just someone watching a video and like trying to transcribe it into a story and like adding details here and there. Well, the first one, they didn't really add any details, but this one, they definitely did. They changed up quite a bit, but it is a little weird to say, like, this is the best article to ever exist. And I think some people, like, on here are like, I don't agree with this. This is not really, like, it's okay. It's not really, like, splendid, amazing. You have to read this. This is perfect. It can't have any improvements to it at all, Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I like seeing, like, kind of peeking into communities like this and getting information on. Holy shit, didn't know why this shitty and total ass creepypasta was in the trending tab. Trying to be edgy with Satan symbol, Japanese letter, and more. I want to get a good creepypasta. Do your fucking work, assholes. I'd say it's like some people are like saying like it's like this is terrible. This is the worst thing ever. Again, it's not that bad. Hold on, Amogus. Then the episode ended. I ended up having a nausea and suicidal thoughts. But luckily, I found the therapist to help me out. I still like SpongeBob, but I will never look at him the same way ever again. Amogus, P.S. Suck my balls, bitch. Amogus, Amogus, Amogus. Are those his Amogus balls? Or are those like his... I think those are Amogus balls. Very nice. Very good. I like that. Okay, so next we're going to read Plankton Got Served. This one is not one of the best articles ever made. Oddly, that gives me a little bit more hope for it. I am sure many of you have heard of lost episode creepypastas. They are usually an incredibly graphic episode that conveys such fear for children that it was never aired. Though someone managed to sneak a viewing or owns one of the tapes. The most popular example of this is Squidward's Suicide Red Mist, in which Squidward commits suicide, hence the title. Of course, all of these creepypastas are false. Yet I remember a SpongeBob episode that was altered heavily, but still remains in circulation today. This is One Course Meal from Season 7. In the episode, Mr. Krabs finds out that Plankton is horrified of whales, and uses it to his advantage. This is one of the least popular episodes of the show due to the dark nature of the episode, even after the episode was heavily altered. Yeah, I know the episode. It's like pretty much Plankton just gets tortured the entire time. Like Mr. Krabs uses his daughter Pearl to like chase him and give him nightmares and all that stuff. Now, how would I have seen this episode before it was edited? It's simple, really. This is one of the 7 SpongeBob episodes that was revealed on the internet before it aired on TV. Always a big fan of the show, I was excited for the idea of having a SpongeBob episode premiere on the internet before television. I rapidly reloaded the Nick page and finally the episode came up. It was known as Plankton Got Served, though it eventually got changed. Most of the episode is identical to the one that is in circulation today. Plankton manages to break into the Crusty Crab and ties up Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. As he is about to finally get the secret formula from SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs' daughter Pearl walks in. This terrifies Plankton and causes him to run out. Plankton later claims his ancestors were eaten by whales, and that this is why he fears them so. Mr. Krabs realizes this fear that Plankton has and decides to use it against him. He dresses up as his daughter and begins to follow Plankton around, frightening him. Plankton decides he can no longer take it and decides to make the ultimate decision. Plankton decides to commit suicide. Yes, this is still in the show today. You are free to watch it. Plankton waits for the bus as he lies in the street, waiting to get run over. This is when SpongeBob comes over to try to convince him to continue his existence. This is where the alteration in the two versions begins. Plankton fails to heed SpongeBob's words and remains there. In the altered version that was shown, SpongeBob tells Plankton that it was Mr. Krabs' Pearl the entire time and he gets up. In another altered version, SpongeBob says the same things, but Plankton refuses to believe him. SpongeBob decides that the only thing he can do to show him the truth is to drag Mr. Krabs outside. Soon after he leaves, the typical red bus comes speeding along. Plankton sits up and watches it hit him as everything fades to darkness. Plankton finds himself standing on a single platform overlooking darkness. In the darkness, he sees whales, all looking up at him. There are members of his family he can faintly make out, calling to him to jump down. Plankton looks above and sees a light he can scarcely believe. This would seem to represent heaven and hell. Plankton, resigned to his fate, jumps and plunges down into the darkness. This is where the episode ends and the traditional credits for the show are shown. The Nickelodeon logo is different, parallel to Plankton's descent in the darkness. Now, some of you may say you saw the show as soon as it became available online. Apparently not fast enough. After seeing the episode, I'm sorry, my brain melts after a while, and I can read just fine at the start, but after like an hour, I lose the ability to understand English. I think this might be the last one. I'll have to look at how long the video is after I edit it up a bit. Okay, after seeing the episode online, I reloaded the page to find the altered version shown on the website. I kept reloading, curious of how I had seen the first video. The only answer I can imagine for my viewing of the original episode was that the creators uploaded the wrong file, and moments after uploading it recognized such. I may be the only person who saw this version. I truly do not know what sick ambitions the creators of SpongeBob had in mind with this episode. Why would a kids show portray death? Why would a kids show portray heaven and hell? Nonetheless, the unaltered version is impossible to find. I've searched as hard as I can and I've failed to find anything legitimate about the episode I'd seen. People had told me that I'd seen only the altered version, and they too were surprised at the dark themes portrayed in the episode. Nonetheless, I know what I saw. I know people would fail to believe me. People will accuse me of lying just to try to scare people. People would say I have no evidence. There are no photos. There is no video evidence of this occurrence. I only saw it once, and it never occurred to me to do such. I know the truth, and I want other people to know as well. Maybe someone out there saw this episode as well as I, and can confirm it. Until then, I hope you enjoyed reading about my experience. That was really good. That was a really good story. It was like, I don't want to say it's scary, but it's like, you know, it's got like its little creepy ambiance. I think it's mainly the fact that it's, I don't know, I think it's like really leaning towards a believability factor. Cause, I don't really like plan to research, but I'm assuming like it probably was uploaded online first. The idea of like, oh, they uploaded the wrong file, you just happen to be looking at it at the one specific moment where it was available. And also the description of what happened in the episode doesn't sound too absurd for what you'd see in a cartoon. Like, wasn't there like a Tom and Jerry episode where it was like, where Tom dies and goes to heaven and then something happens and he gets sent back to hell? And then hell is like a dog. It's like the dog character from Tom and Jerry, like, you know, ramming with a pitchfork constantly where he's in a boiling pot. I feel like I remember that. So I feel like the idea of a character dying in a cartoon and the idea of like him going to heaven or hell, is that too like unbelievable for a cartoon to have? Even if it's something that's like, you know, they had to go back. I don't think it's a true story, but I think it's written in a way where you could like, if it were to come out like, actually this is true, this actually happened, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of weird, but I understand that. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna edit the video, and I'm gonna see if I have it in me do one more story. All right, I think we're gonna end it off with an old classic SpongeBob Lost episode creepypasta. This one is simply called Spongebob Bootleg episode. This is a really old classic, really short, perfect for ending this video off. This image was taken from a split-second frame in the corrupted bootleg of the SpongeBob episode Dumped. Other than the image, the rest of the video is composed of incomprehensible jumbles of colors, static, or just black screens. The audio seems to be a heavily distorted version of the audio from the original episode, with loud, droning buzzes occasionally interrupting it. The bootleg tape itself was found in December 2004 by a group of 5 teenagers from the city rummaging around in a trash can within an abandoned mental institution. Of these 5 individuals, 2 have committed suicide, 1 has gone missing, 1 refuses to comment on the tape, and the last hastily agreed to give paranormal investigators a tape shortly after being interviewed about the suicide and disappearances of the other 3 persons. The current whereabouts of the tape are unknown, and many who stare at this image for a long enough period of time claim to see SpongeBob blink. Will we see it happen? So wait a minute. It's gonna happen. Any second now? Any second now? Come on, SpongeBob. There, it just happened. See? It happened. It's like a really long GIF. That's like the whole gimmick of the story, is that this thing's like a very, this image right here is the entire like premise of this. Everything about this creepypasta hinges on this file right here. Cause it blinks. It does blink. But it does so, it takes a very long time for it to blink. So it's like, oh, did I actually see that? Am I going? Because I was thinking, did I actually see it blink? Because I know I saw it blink earlier, but this is a really it's like a pioneer, like really old like creepypasta when people are still experimenting with things. You'll notice there's not really anything to the story aside from that one gimmick. It's pretty much just they found a really corrupted tape. And it's mostly just complete nonsense. But there's only like a second or two of like this picture of SpongeBob. And like that's the entire, and people watch it kill themselves. So it's like, ooh, it's haunted. Sprinkle a little bit of that in there. Because this is around the time of like, republish this post or she will end up in your bedroom. Like the Carmen Winstead video where it's like, if you do not share this with this many people, you'll die. Or like, The Ring, all those kind of stories where it's like, you've seen this, you're gonna die, you're cursed now. So it's like it kind of gives the impression that there's something hidden in the static, and the fact that this blinks makes it seem like, okay, this is like completely messed up. This was around a time when creepypasta was very new, and even then you kind of gotta appreciate kind of the clever, especially just with this. You gotta appreciate the cleverness with this right here. And I think with that we're gonna call this video quits. I think overall, most of the stories were pretty good. If I had to rank them, I don't know how I can rank this one. Because this one's not like kind of a different animal. Because it's not really the story that's scary. It's pretty much just this image. But I'd say like, other than this one, I'd say in order, I'd rank them as from top to bottom. Plankton Got Served. Faceless. The Void. What was the other one? Lies, whatever it was called. And I'd probably put Rock Grotto or whatever it was called. I'd probably put that at last place, because that like Rock Grotto was just a transcription of a video. But I feel like Plankton Got Served had the most. I feel like it was the best written. And yeah, other than that, kind of weird that the best ones are the ones that are closer to the bottom. But anyways, I think I'm going to end it here. Probably going to end up doing another Master Duel video sometime soon. I think I said that last time, and it's been a while. We'll see what happens. We'll see what things come up. I plan on doing that next. So yeah, I don't have anything clever to say for an ending. So here's a very abrupt cut to an end of a video.